whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. A lot to talk about today. Thanking everybody that's been waiting in the wings. You will notice that I have put in the comments the link to the show if you guys want to click on in and join it that way. What are we going to talk about today? A lot. We're going to talk, my husband and friends are huge. I don't know anybody that doesn't love the movie The Princess Bride. Apparently Elon Musk isn't watching the same movie that we are. He misquotes The Princess Bride when he is talking about why he doesn't care that people don't like his tweets. And when we get to this, I want you guys to tell me, on one hand, he makes a point about freedom of speech, and he is a person who can basically say what he wants to. We could totally skewer him about butchering and misquoting The Princess Bride. But on the other hand, he's basically, in my opinion, saying something about privilege and money and those who are able to say whatever they want and be damned what you think. So we'll get a little bit into that. Also, Tesla may be reversing its stance on advertising. And I'm wondering if that is saying something about where the company stands and where Elon Musk stands on all the money he seems to be losing. Speaking of advertising, more reaction to those Fentanyl ads I was talking about on yesterday's show. Colorful, kind of talking about farmers markets and picking up your fentanyl, not making light of it, but really trying to be a contrast to the dark reality on the streets of San Francisco. Now, this comes as some San Francisco leaders are calling on the federal government to help battle fentanyl. So we'll talk about whether the federal government should step in or if this is a San Francisco problem that San Francisco and the state of California should take care of. Scientists have come out with new research regarding fossil fuels and how they contribute to California or Western wildfires. This comes as a Democrat, and I'm not surprised by which Democrat it is pulling his support for President Biden's nominee for energy secretary after he realized, wait a minute, you want to pull back on fossil fuels? I might be a Democrat, but I'm not that kind of Democrat. Random House, the book publisher, is suing a Florida school district over its book bans. And this comes as DeSantis made good on his promise and has signed bills targeting drag shows, pronouns, bathroom use, transgender rights, the big issues that America is dealing with right now. In the second part of the show, I want to debate adult children who are living with their parents and whether or not they should pay rent. And if any of you are in this situation, I would love for you to click in or share in the comments the situation, because there's a bit of debate of people that think, yes, if you're an adult living under somebody else's roof, whether they're your parent or not, you should pay rent. And then there seems to be this caveat that some people want to include, which is, well, do the parents really need the money? And I'm like, does that matter? The need for the money versus should you allow adult children? Yes, you love them. They came from your loins. But should you allow adult children to live in your house rent free? So we'll talk about that. There's also this thing I saw on Facebook yesterday that we'll get into. And for anybody graduating, let's say college, anybody take that gap year where they're like, I want to find myself. I want to travel the world. I want to live with my parents rent free while I do it. Well, there is a website that you can go to that I just learned about. I don't know if you guys know it, where you can get paid, get room and board covered, and live in places like Hawaii or Colorado or whatever, kind of travel and see the country while getting paid and hopefully saving some of that money to do what you want to do. Should you get a kid a credit card? Let's stay in the finance field. Should you get a kid a credit card? I think there's one called Green Light, or there's a bunch of different type of debit cards that parents can either put money on or, tie to their own bank account, which is something I would never do. Spoiler alert. But how do you teach your kids about finances? And it kind of ties into, should you make your adult children pay rent? And did you teach them well enough? So maybe they're not even questioning that. And then finally, we'll do some TV news. Did you see that missing girl that was found, all thanks to Unsolved Mysteries, a show I love, but it's on Netflix right now. And you might be surprised at how short of amount of time this young girl was on Netflix, and she was still found. So that is all coming up on today's Nikki Medoro Show. But before we get to all of that, please, guys, can you click the thumbs up button? Show your support for the show. Make sure your family and friends subscribe. We're kind of, getting into another season, and we really want to keep this going. And the only way we could do it is if more people subscribe to the show. And then, of course, we need to keep the lights on, and we're completely crowdfunded. So the super chat is live. Look for the $, and you can give myself and give Kim some money for the show to keep it going. We'll read your super comments, your super stickers, your super thanks. Look, I hate begging for money. I hate the fact that we do this and we have to do it every show. But I need your guys' support if you still want to come here and have this community and still see the show up and running. And the number one way that I keep pushing, and I really would love if you already donate, maybe you can consider upping your donation, is to become part of our monthly Patreon subscribers. It's one payment a month, whatever you can afford. And you can find the Patreon link at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. And you can just go there. You could click in. I actually had 2 people, and I adore you guys. 2 people. I was talking, was it yesterday or the day before, about saying that maybe I'll start posting what I find to be hilariously awful workout videos on Patreon. I'm not quite sure if my confidence is that high, but that might be coming soon to Patreon. But either way, Patreon is a way for you guys to really support the show, and it's money that we can count on every month, which is vital to keep something like this going and for us to continue doing the show. So again, look for the Patreon link, consider donating or upping your donation at thenikkimedoroshow.com. If you want to make, just a one-time donation, PayPal, in addition to the super chat, are ways of doing that. The email is right there on your screen. It's thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. And pick yourself up some merchandise as well at thenikkimedoroshop.com, because I love it. And I love all of you guys. You just, it really helps us out. It helps us out so, so very much. And Wes started us off with the $10 super sticker. I adore you, Wes. Thank you. Thank you so very much. We can't do it without you. And Deidre, and I said your name right last time you corrected us, because I think Mark's saying it wrong. Deidre with a $5 super sticker. Thank you, guys. I adore you guys. Thank you so very much. All right. Any Princess Bride fans out there? Right? I mean, movie's been around forever. Well, Elon Musk was being asked about his tweets. And I'm going to play you a little bit of the interview, because here's the thing. Yes, there is freedom of speech, but there is not freedom of consequences. And when you are the head of a company like Twitter, you might want to pause a little bit and, kind of decide, do I really want to tweet this? Do I have to? And I'm going to preface, I'll play a little bit of the interview. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. Is having a filter a violation of your First Amendment rights? Is thinking about what you want to say and then saying, does it serve the conversation? Am I just kind of trolling? What are the consequences of what I'm saying going to be? Because yes, Elon and anybody else, you could say whatever you want and you won't be thrown in jail. That is your freedom of speech. But it doesn't mean you don't consider the impact of your words. So again, Elon Musk was being interviewed by CNBC's David Faber. This was yesterday. And he was talking about some tweets that he's done. The most recent one, it's more criticism, basically backlash, in which Elon Musk likened George Soros to X-Men villain Magneto, a Jewish Holocaust survivor. Musk has previously criticized Soros, who is Jewish, of course. He's, obviously been a target of the right-wing party, politicians. He's been the subject of many anti-Semitic attacks. So many people would question Elon. Why, Elon? Why do you feel it necessary to do this? And Elon's basically saying, I don't give two licks what you think. So here it is. Here's a little bit of the interview again with Elon Musk and David Faber. Here we go.
You also you said he wants to erode the very fabric of civilization, and Soros hates humanity. Like, when you do something like that, do you?
Yeah, I think that's true. That's my opinion.
Okay, but why share it? Why share it? Especially, why share it when people who buy Teslas may not agree with you, advertisers on Twitter may not agree with you? Why not just say, hey, I think this? You can tell me. We can talk about it over there. You can tell your friends, but why share it widely?
I mean, this is freedom of speech. I'm allowed to say what I want.
You absolutely are, but I'm trying to understand why you do, because you have to know it puts you in the middle of the partisan divide in the country. It makes you a lightning rod for criticism. I mean, do you like that? People today saying he's an anti-Semite. I don't think you are.
No, I'm definitely. I'm like a pro-Semite, if anything.
I believe that probably is the case.
Yes.
But why would you even introduce the idea of that?
Here we go. Now listen. So he'll make this argument.
I mean, listen, we don't want to make this a George Soros interview.
No, God, no. I don't want to at all. But
don't hold me accountable.
Came up though in the annual meeting. I mean, do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position and I know it because he shares so much of it? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you got to stop, man. Or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet.
Ugh, watch this. Look at this pause. Look at this pause. What the hell? It's like he's never questioned it before.
I'm reminded of the scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care. You want to share what you have to say.
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
If the consequences of saying what I want to say is losing money, so be it. Well, one, he completely misrepresents that scene. Now, I don't know how many of you have not seen The Princess Bride. You should know this. Hold on. I think I had a great... So it's this scene. It's this scene right here. I'm uploading the video. Inigo Montoya is, in the battle right there. He's saying, give me money, give me power. And the guy is saying, yes, I'll give you whatever you want, basically. He's like, I'd rather have my father alive. I would rather have that. So replace father with what? Trolling people? Because you already have freedom of speech, Elon. You already have it. It's not being taken from you. It's not like a death in the family. You can say whatever you want. It's insane. It's insane that he thinks that I need to. This is how I envision it. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. He needs to troll people like George Soros and others in order to what? Protect freedom of speech? No, because he has the privilege where he can live without the consequences of it. Yeah, Twitter might lose money. He's extremely rich. He'll still be a billionaire. God forbid people get laid off that don't make as much money as him because Twitter starts going down. That's the problem. It's just really, exactly, Nick, entitled much. Exactly. It is such a display of privilege, in my opinion, for him to say, and did you hear that pause? Like, I'm glad that you know what? I wish that he gave that amount of pause before he tweeted, because he did seem like he was giving it some thought. Okay. As if no one had ever asked him, you can, but should you tweet that? As if, well, why wouldn't I tweet it? Because Elon, you'll never really face any true consequences for your trolling tweets. Yes, other people will get mad at you, but you feed off it. It's kind of similar to other people, Trump and others, who they feed off of it. They really, truly do. And that, it's sad, and he can, but yeah, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why he can't give a little bit more thought. But it's just not like him. All right, let me read some of the comments. Karen says he'll like his attention, negative or otherwise. Yeah, and there's a lot of people we can think of that are like that. I love how many Princess Bride fans we have. Now, Randy says Musk speaks his mind, so what? Okay, so let's answer that question, Randy. So Musk targets George Soros. It feeds a narrative about liberals. It also feeds and gives anti-Semites. It makes them into a feeding frenzy, right? There are consequences. Do you not believe, Randy, and I'm just asking you this honestly, that there aren't any consequences for someone with a platform as large as Elon Musk when he tweets? I mean, that's the point that's so disappointing sometimes about our society, is that we're all, and I think that many of us are guilty of it. I won't say all, but so many people are guilty of just saying something to be controversial or get some sort of attention, not thinking of the consequences, right? So he could put something out, and it's Magneto. Sorry, I'm an X-Men watcher. Pardon me. So he compares Soros to Magneto, and what, right? He can just do that, and then people can take what they want from it. Calvin, you've never seen The Princess Bride? I'm telling you, I'm a little disappointed in you, my friend. You have to go see it. It's a classic. It's absolutely a classic. There's so many great one-liners. I bet you, Calvin, if you watch The Princess Bride, you'll hear lines that you've probably heard people say, and now it makes sense why they say it. Wes says he's one of the few that can say that because he has enough money. So there's no real consequence. He just likes trolling. Randy says, if you don't agree with him or something he says, don't buy his Tesla cars. Somebody else will buy them. Yeah. And that is true. Exactly. Another line. To paraphrase the movie, you keep saying freedom of speech. I do not think you know what that means. Freedom of speech is freedom from the government imprisoning you for what you say. It has to do with speaking out against the government. It doesn't free you from consequences. Ooh, John, when I go on certain political platforms and in certain chat rooms, I get accused of being paid to do so by George Soros. Randy, that is a consequence. It feeds a narrative that people love. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be George Soros at all. I can't imagine. Randy thinks that everyone used to love Elon until he let Trump back on Twitter. I would disagree. I think Elon Musk has gotten his own criticism for a long time. I think he got even before Trump was kicked off because it was a company that did not enforce its rules equally. Wes says, I think he may be autistic. He doesn't follow social norms. I do believe you're right, or at least he's on the spectrum. And I think he's been forthcoming with that. I also think that he's smart enough to know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He does. Vilma says, Musk says what he says because he can. He does this without consequences. I believe Musk believes that most people are beneath him. John says, apparently George Soros funds every Democratic DA in the country, pays all the BLM, Antifa, and women's rights protesters. I just want to know where I can get all this Soros cash because I've been working. I agree. It is hilarious how much George Soros' money has been tied to things. Lady Beatrice, thank you so much for the $5 donation to our super chat. She writes, Elon is one to talk. He's removed accounts just because people expressed free speech about him. Exactly. Fired people from Twitter because of it. Yeah, it's one of the problems I feel like with, I hate to say it so bluntly, but it's a problem with being so rich. When you're rich, you don't get all of the consequences. You could just buy your way out of it. You could just not care. Murphy, definitely no one holding him accountable, which is also exacerbated by the way he replaces wives with his next younger, blonder one. Are you talking about Elon? I might have skipped over the comment there. Yeah, Vilma. Oh my gosh. You guys that have never seen The Princess Bride, I'm very disappointed. And so is Chris Allen. And Chris Allen with the comment of the day. If you're Gen X and have never seen Princess Bride, shame on you. Let's see if Kim McAllister is going to be shamed. Have you seen The Princess Bride, my friend?
Inconceivable.
I mean, marriage. I mean, there's so many things that people that have not seen The Princess Bride, those jokes must just go completely over your head for decades. I just go watch it. You'll get so much.
My husband has seen it so many times that before we met that he kind of speaks Princess Bride, right? So he'll use the movie lines and I'll be like, what is that? So I had to watch it. And now I've seen it so many times. So.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a classic. And just to bring you up to speed, Elon Musk completely butchers or misquotes the movie by trying to compare himself to one character when I would say he was, what was it, the man with 6 fingers or whatever? Calvin promises to watch it. All right. Thank you. And Wes, is it your homework this weekend?
Calvin, you must.
You must. All right. So, I mean, no rich person. Chris says no rich person would buy Twitter for billions. This is what I will say about Elon Musk buying Twitter real quickly. I think it's ego. I think he said something without thinking or tweeted something without thinking and doesn't like consequences, right? It's like, screw it, then I'm buying it. I've got enough money. I can do it. And so that's what's happening. And, now again, with Yacarino is going to be the new CEO. And she's being handed a gigantic turd of a company right now. Hopefully she could turn it around. I mean, and again, when we talked about this before, a turd of a company as far as they have problems, right? They're losing money. A lot of their reputation has been tarnished, to say the least. Yeah. And now she's supposed to turn it around. So we're just going to be on a Princess Bride quoting streak, I think, in the comments throughout the day. And I'm all for it. But somebody online was giving a really great analysis of the fact that Elon Musk was kind of comparing himself to Inigo Montoya. And the whole point was Montoya lost something, his father, right? And it was not replaceable. You cannot buy it. The complete opposite of what Elon Musk is. This one guy was saying the whole point is that Montoya cares deeply, that he wants to make clear to this man just what he took from him and why he must kill him. Without that, it's just some cool stuff to say. It's the dark part. It's the bad guy that says it, that, I don't care about money, for Elon Musk to say is quite privileged because he has all of the money. And yes, Randy, Twitter was in financial turmoil. I don't even think they turned a profit. Twitter did. They were trying to change their ad, their ad revenue, their advertising streams. It was already having problems before, but Elon Musk, I think, overpaid and knew it. Absolutely knew it. Calvin thinks that Twitter will go into bankruptcy. Yeah, I think so too. Which could be why Elon's other company could start advertising. So apparently there was the latest shareholders meeting. Elon Musk was being asked an audience question regarding advertising. And he says, well, try a little advertising and see how it goes. Tesla's been known not to advertise at all. They don't sell cars the traditional way. You can't go to the Tesla showroom or something like that. I mean, they have the buildings and things, but it's not like the traditional car dealerships that you would find, on Auto Row or whatever. This is what he said. He said, it's indeed ironic that Twitter is highly dependent on advertising. Here I am, never used advertising really before. And now I have a company that's highly dependent on advertising. So I guess I should say advertising is awesome and everybody should do it, which of course is a reversal for Tesla. But when you're talking about advertising, to go back to what we were talking about before, if you want people to like your product, maybe you should give a little more thought to the trolling type tweets you send out. It's just, he should think about it a little more often. A little bit more on that shareholders meeting. Apparently there's going to be 2 more electric vehicles. That's what he announced. He said the vehicle's design and manufacturing techniques are head and shoulders above anything else that's present in the industry. But what else do you expect him to say?
I mean, you can't deny the fact that he's had tremendous success with Tesla, right? And SpaceX.
Yeah, well, and I would say if there was any product, and I'm going to put that in quotes because when we talk about SpaceX, it is a product, but I'm not buying it, right? Governments are. Yeah. I would say SpaceX is even above Tesla. I mean, again, the reusing of those boosters and landing them on that. And I know it's not always been successful. There's been some fantastic explosions, but that's what obviously happens when you're using the technology. I will completely give him credit where credit is due. I don't think somebody without a filter should lead, let's say, a social media company where you hope for filters. You want there to be filters because if not, it just becomes this cesspool of conspiracy and hate in many cases and misinformation. So maybe he's just not the best person to run a social media company. And again, misquoting the Princess Bride. Just,
no,
such a disappointment, man.
Something we don't do. What I just don't understand is why you would pay that much money for a company and then gut it.
Because he doesn't know what else to do with it. He's trying to save money. He spent $44 billion on it. You better
maybe it's because he didn't have any money left to put into it. But you don't usually gut a company like that unless you're preparing to offload it or sell it.
Well, we'll see if he declares bankruptcy, and what he's going to do with the company. And I keep saying this every time I mention Twitter. I was a heavy Twitter user. Okay. I liked it. It was not much on the weekends, but during the week I was on it a lot, especially when I was on Station X, breaking news. It has fundamentally changed for someone that was on it as much as I was, and now on it, the interface is completely, well, not the interface, but just what I see. My feed is so different. My reach on it is different, but I'm not giving him $8 of my hard-earned money to get a blue check mark, which is the reason why I think my feed is actually changed. People see fewer of my tweets because you could see the analytics. And I know they even disclose it. It's because I'm not paying and I'm not going to pay. I'd much rather just keep it as organic as possible and see where that gets me, because $8 a month to go into Elon Musk's pocket is just a little bit too much. Yeah. Okay. Here. LJ. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He says, really, Nikki? I mean, I get it. He might not say what everybody wants him to say, but his companies employ so many people here in the Bay Area and across the world. I'm one of them. So again, my point is, if you are responsible for a company that employs so many people, have a filter. Have a filter. Yes, you can tweet whatever you want, Elon Musk. It doesn't mean you should, because there are consequences, not just for your company, but all of those people that company employs. That's my point. Of course, Elon Musk can say whatever he wants. He already does. I'm just saying, I feel like you need to care about the content of your message and what it's going to do. Because what does it add to the conversation anyway? For Elon Musk, comparing Soros to Magneto, what does that add to the conversation? Was it necessary? I mean, is anything necessary? I mean, we can really go into the philosophical question of tweets, but I do think that he could use a filter. Oh, and another one from LJ. I'm sure you've said things on your show that you don't care about losing subscribers. Interesting. I pride myself on being completely honest, right? So I am sure. Actually, great example. I'm so glad you brought this up. So I made this quick short yesterday, and we talked about it, the Miller Lite commercial.
Yeah.
And I was basically saying, there's certain men, and I put qualifiers. I did not say all men. I said some men, masculine men that are very threatened by a Miller Lite ad that calls out past beer ads that put a ton of tits and ass in it. And oh my God, I need tits and ass in my beer commercial. If not, you're woke and should go broke. Okay, that's basically what I was saying. I have received a ton of support, and I have received the amount of hate that I have received specifically from men and the assumptions they make about me proves my point completely. Now,
what
do they think
assumptions
I'm nuts?
are they making?
Oh, I'm
about
a
you?
lesbian. I'm a
Of
man
course.
hater.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever want to love me. I don't get it. I don't get that beer commercials should only appeal to straight men. This is all going over my head. Beer commercials should have tits and ass because only straight cis men drink beer. That is the message that I was being sent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you for proving my point. And I didn't respond to them because that's what they want, and I don't feed the beast. But yes, LJ, yeah, I am positive I have pissed off certain people, and they're like, I'm never listening to you again. And I mean, obviously, I hope they come back. We can have a debate about ideas. But I'm going to apologize for what I said yesterday. No, I meant it. I mean it. I stand by my words. I'm not comparing George Soros to Magneto, right? I'm making a statement about how sensitive certain masculine men are when they are not the focus of advertising. That was my point. And that was
try to change something. Try to move the society forward, and you'll get a bunch of people that are just digging in their heels and fighting you on it.
Exactly. And it's fine, and
they're scared. They're scared.
And I do not do this show to convince people to always agree with me. I mean, we do this show to talk about current events and pop culture and have a debate of ideas. There are many of you that come every single day and disagree with me about everything. And I love it. I mean, that makes it interesting. But I, obviously respectful and things like that. But beer commercials and men, it was laughable. I had to go through many comments on the different social media platforms that I put it on. And
yes, not even their beer commercials are sacred. You're trying to take that away.
I mean, there were some really sensitive Nellies out there that were very upset that I was calling certain men out about it. And so I'm just a hateful lesbian, apparently. So,
I didn't know that about you.
I know. I didn't know that I was a lesbian. This is new to me. I'm sure my husband will be very interested.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, but again, it's just a knee-jerk assumption. I'm a hateful, man-hating lesbian.
Right.
Because I'm calling out certain men that can't stand a beer commercial that's not targeted to them.
See, but to them, like, being a lesbian that's an offensive thing. Like,
exactly. They were using it as an insult. I'm
as if that's a problem. Okay, that's your insult to me. You think you're gonna insult my sexuality? Whatever.
Right, exactly. Okay, well, let's just do this before we go to Kim's news as well, since it's talking about ads. Remember, I was talking yesterday about those Fentanyl ads. I'm going to show you another picture because this is another one. Here's another one. Don't forget to add Narcan to the family shopping list. We don't like the new routine. Do you? That's Fentanyl. And it's these ads that are supposed to kind of wake people up. They look cheery, but they're not. That's not the point. Well, not everybody likes it. Now, who was it? Oh, yeah. So the Fentanyl ads were being called out by Supervisor Dean Preston. Now, again, like talking about the descriptors, right? And I like Dean Preston. I don't always agree with him, but I do like him. But this is what he tweets. He says, when the billionaire-funded political PAC stoops so low as to mock distribution of life-saving Narcan in their billboards, it's clear they aren't serious about helping our city address the overdose crisis. Such a gross campaign displaying a complete indifference to life. Now, I'm trying to get Together SF to come on the show. She wasn't able to yesterday, and she's really busy this week. So hopefully we can come on and talk about a number of things, including this ad campaign. But I don't see the ads that way. Do you? I mean, I feel like it's wake up. Yes, some people might be offended, but notice it. Notice the advertising. Another supervisor, Matt Dorsey, announced plans this week. He's introducing a resolution seeking federal support to combat fentanyl trafficking in San Francisco. This is in support of a recent request from Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi to Attorney General Garland, asking the DEA and the Justice Department to designate San Francisco for Operation Overdrive. So this is an initiative under Biden that would focus law enforcement resources on communities where criminal drug networks are causing the most harm. I think that's a fabulous idea, right? I mean, I think that San Francisco definitely needs something like this because it's getting bad. And and this whole trank thing being found, what was it, in Marin's wastewater?
Yeah.
And that apparently can erode your skin. Or something happens with your skin, right?
Your skin off. That's right.
It's disgusting. And, obviously, if you don't take the drugs, that really helps. But we do need help in the Bay Area, in places like San Francisco. And I'm hoping we get it. I really do. Supervisor Dorsey cited the latest Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's report for April. It showed 2023 is now on pace to post the deadliest year for accidental drug overdoses in the city's history, with 268 overdose deaths in the first 4 months of this year.
Man, that's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And a growing share, 80%, are now directly attributed to fentanyl. It's awful. It's absolutely awful.
I don't have a problem with the ads. I think sometimes sarcasm is what attracts attention.
Exactly.
You look at it and you go, what? And then you look again and you're like, okay, I get that.
Right. Karen writes, Nikki, you expressed the thought yesterday that I haven't heard addressed before and wondered about. Why do people increasingly want or need drugs? And how do we solve the problem, not put a Band-Aid on it? Yeah. It is something I always, and honestly, it's something we personally need to address within ourselves. So for instance, we could start young kids, right? They want to experiment. That's how we kind of couch it, right? Oh, you're young. You want to know what all the hoopla is about, peer pressure, things like that. But I also think there's many excuses on why people use drugs. Obviously, trauma, harm. I think the huge homeless situation, especially here in a high cost of living area, adds to it. If I was homeless, and I've said this before, I've said this on Station X many times. If I was chronically homeless, like living on the street, living in a tent, and everything that means, there's no freaking way I would want to do it sober. I would imagine it's very difficult to deal with the trauma, the fear, the violence, right? Sober.
The way people look at you, being ostracized.
Yeah. It has to suck. Do you want to sleep outside? Look, and I'm not making light of it, but if I was passed out or having to sleep outside, I want to be passed out on drugs and not feel it. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but imagine that. Imagine living outside. You want to block it out. So that also adds to it. And until you solve the homeless problem, really, you're not going to solve the drug problem, because those two things can many times go hand in hand. And then obviously just straight up addiction. You dabbled and you got addicted. You come from a good home, you come from money. And I said this also, I think last week or the week before, just because you live in a nice neighborhood doesn't mean you don't live with a bunch of drug addicts. They just have a house to do their drugs in. So don't think that just because you live in a nice suburban neighborhood or, up Skyline Boulevard, that's down there happening. No, it could be happening right next door. Yeah. But they have a house, so you don't see it. So we do have a drug problem in this country. And I don't know. I
Well,
don't know
and
how we deal with that.
I've known people that are from very affluent families that
Mhm.
end up homeless on the street doing drugs because of an addiction problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview regarding that trank that we were just talking about, and because it's like a sedative, even if you give Narcan and it's often combined with fentanyl, you
Mhm.
give someone Narcan and they could still be out of it because the sedative is still working. So you may have stopped the fentanyl overdose, but they're still able to be, um, assaulted because they're still
Mhm.
passed out or they're still not
Yeah.
with it completely. So it is just so dangerous. And yeah, Vilma, absolutely. The drug use is a multifaceted problem. And sadly, because certain drugs are so addictive, what started as dabbling and experimenting can quickly become an addiction. And that has been the case for decades. And so yeah, you just need to talk with your kids, talk with your family members, and really get to the root of why do you not want to be in this reality and why are you looking for a different one?
You know, it always freaks me out where
Mm,
when you talk about drugs,
mm,
why this person and not that person? Why do some people fall to it and not others? And it seems like, as you mentioned, it doesn't matter your station in life, whether you come from money, whether you come from
mhm,
poverty, whether you live in a great neighborhood or not, whether you're educated or whether you are a dropout, it doesn't matter. It hits everybody. And so
mhm.
it's that, well then it can come for my kids, then it can come for us. And so I mean, I think it really behooves all of us to try to figure out why people are so miserable that they want to be checked out.
Well, I mean, and you could point to a million different things.
Yeah.
You can point, and of course, social media hasn't been around forever, but I do think that in current times it plays a role, right? You feel connected, but you're not actually connected to anybody on social media. Um, you know, COVID had its toll, and I'm just talking about in current years, right?
Yeah.
Also, I think we've just, in many cases, and not all, we become meaner as a society,
Really
right?
mean.
We
Yeah.
become mean. We're
Yeah.
scared of each other. We don't reach out. And we've talked about, the people, your friend who was on a BART train or whatever with a dead person for how long? Because nobody wants to reach out. We're so scared of interacting with each other for valid reasons because of what we see in the news. But this disconnect, I think, as a human species, hurts us. And so we try to numb it and we try to be in our own heads, and
Yeah.
I think that that's not going to be easily solved. It's just not until we, I think, heal ourselves as a society, which is a tall freaking order.
Mm.
It's as tall as, and not to call it one political party, it's as tall as the GOP saying guns aren't the problem, mental health is the problem, and thinking that solving the mental health crisis would happen more quickly than, I don't know, passing an assault weapons ban. So it's tough to solve societal problems
Yeah.
in a year, 5 years, 10 years, or even a generation, sadly. So you have to start within your own home. I tell my kids all the time, I go, listen, I know, especially my daughter, because she's about to go into high school. There's going to be kids that are going to be like, hey, try this. Their peer pressure is a real thing. And I tell her, I'm like, one, we have family members that have been addicted to drugs. We have seen friends and the downward spiral. But
Yeah.
also, just because so and so swallowed something and nothing bad happened to him or her doesn't mean that if you swallow it, something bad won't happen to you.
Mhm.
So don't think that drugs play fair at all. I honestly, I put the fear of God into them. I do. I mean, I constantly, I'm like, you can die in one experiment. That's it. And
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you become a stupid statistic of
Yeah.
kids doing drugs and dying. Is that what you want to be? Because no one's going to remember your freaking name, but they'll remember and they'll add you to the long tally list of kids that died because of it. And that's it. And it sucks. And so it's just a tough time for everybody. Kids, adults, everybody. Okay, we're gonna do some quick
Yeah.
headlines with Kim. Um, Democrats, of course, and Republicans, they choose their issues. And there is one Democrat that has once again pulled away from President Biden over reducing fossil fuels and will squeeze in Random House. the book publisher, is suing a Florida school district at the exact same time that, of course, our least favorite governor, Ron DeSantis, has promised and fulfilled the promise to sign those bills targeting the trans community. All right, so headlines with Kim. But before we do that, please click the thumbs up button right below your screen to show your support of the show. And we'll talk about all of that next on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And we will begin with President Biden. He is now agreeing to negotiate more directly with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on the debt ceiling. McCarthy said he's been pushing for direct negotiations for more than 100 days. Lawmakers have now have to pass a bill to raise the debt ceiling before June 1st or risk default. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says even a 10-minute car chase in New York City, kind of hard to believe. That's what he's saying about a 2-hour car chase. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle claim they were in a near catastrophic car chase for 2 hours with paparazzi this week. Law enforcement officials say a bit chaotic is more accurate than near catastrophic, and that the royal couple got a police escort home. They think maybe the whole thing is being exaggerated. I don't know. I could see that given the history, they may have been pretty freaked out over the paparazzi chasing him around. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul, pictured here, says that his panel is considering holding the Secretary of State in contempt of Congress. Why? Well, McCaul says Secretary Antony Blinken has until tomorrow to grant Congress access to a classified cable on the U.S. withdrawal in Afghanistan. The State Department today says it plans to invite McCaul to view the cable at its headquarters with important information redacted. So a standoff over this documentation. Large multi-agency raids on suspected gang locations leading to multiple arrests. This happening in Los Angeles and other parts of California. The FBI and the Los Angeles Police Department saying they're targeting gangs and Mexican mafia suspects. They say drugs and illegal guns are at the core of the raids today. Officials add the investigation started in October of last year and included locations in Bakersfield. Police say they seized many pounds of drugs, including fentanyl. They also found assault weapons and unregistered so-called ghost guns. Some 7,200 employees of failed First Republic Bank will soon find out if they have permanent or temporary jobs or if they will be laid off. JP Morgan Chase, which purchased First Republic after it was closed by regulators, has sent a memo that word would be sent during the first week of June. So they've got to wait a little longer to find out. Almost half of those employees are here in the Bay Area. The Earth is going to cross a new climate threshold over the next 5 years. The World Meteorological Organization says the planet's temperature is likely to climb more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels for at least a year. The WMO also saying there's a 98% chance that at least one of the next 5 years will be the warmest ever on record. And lastly, a little story about some shoesies. A Minnesota man being charged for stealing the famous ruby red slippers worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. A Minnesota grand jury indicted 76-year-old Terry J. Martin in the 2005 theft of the slippers from the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. The slippers were recovered by police during a sting operation in Minneapolis in 2018. They are one of just 4 known surviving pairs from the 1939 movie, and they're currently valued at $3.5 million for the red ruby slippers. Don't steal those. They're going to catch you.
Wow.
3.5 mil for a pair of shoes. They want those back.
I wonder what size they are. Like if I stole them, could I wear them?
That's maybe a 7.
I'm a 7. I'm a 7.
Are you a 7? Pretty tiny. You stole from my big old clumpers. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yeah, I'm a size 7. I wonder. I thought they looked actually smaller than that. I was thinking maybe a size 5. Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. They are cute, though. I wouldn't steal them, though. I know. Okay, so Kim just did it in her news that within the next 5 years, we could reach that tipping point on climate change.
Yeah.
And it's a possibility, right? Like we're on track. It's not guaranteed. I feel like we've just, it's like that doomsday clock. Does it ever go backwards? I feel like we're always just moving toward oblivion, and not to depress everybody. But scientists are blaming fossil fuels for more than a third of the acreage burned in wildfires in Western North America over the past 40 years. So they looked at some new analysis, and it found about almost 20 million acres, or 37% of the total area burned in the Western U.S. and Southwest Canada since 1986 can be linked to heat trapping emissions released by the world's 88 largest fossil fuel and cement producers. So when you hear stuff like this, and I'm going to take it totally like, okay, some people are like, it's okay. It's just the planet will survive. The planet will survive, but let's talk about us surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to burn? Do you want your communities to be burned down? Do you want environmental migration happening, environmental refugees? If your state is burning, people have to move. So we need to keep this in mind. Well, you would think that at this point, with what Kim was saying about, the warming of the planet and what environmental analysis says about the number of acres burned because of fossil fuels, that we could get on the same page. But Senate Energy Committee Chairman Joe Manchin, a Democrat, has now canceled a special hearing and pulled his support for President Biden's nomination for a key renewable energy post. And why? Because he says that since he actually did support the nomination in December, that he's been concerned about proposed stove efficiency rules. He says, while I appreciate that these rules would only apply to new stoves, my view is that it's part of a broader administration-wide effort to eliminate fossil fuels. And for that reason, I am not comfortable moving forward with the nomination at this time.
People don't want to be inconvenienced. Even if our state is on fire and we're in trouble, they're like, you know what? I just don't really want to be inconvenienced. I don't.
Why not just start the slow reduction of fossil fuels in a way of saying we're not going to yank out your natural gas stove, but what we are going to do, like light bulbs, right? Yeah. Is we're just not going to produce new ones. That way, as you begin to do maybe new construction, new homes, remodels, you're going to be more energy efficient. And it is energy. Well, I know energy efficient, but it still uses electricity. Okay. But it's going to be more environmentally friendly, I should say. Yeah. Fewer fossil fuels. Why not? Can anybody explain to me why? I know. Why we wouldn't want to do this? And I feel this is a fair way. This is the compromise, right? I mean, if we wanted to be harsh about it, we would go into every home and be like, that's illegal, and yank it out. That would never happen, of course. But it's not that. It's not that extreme. But what it is look, as people build, we should build with the environment in mind and climate change in mind. And I get it. Yeah. Nick says his state is also about black lung and illiteracy. He doesn't give an S about the state. Yeah, Karen says his state's all about fossil fuel. So of course he would say that. Exactly. Yeah. And that sucks. That sucks. And yes, West, gas stoves are beloved by real chefs. Although I don't know if you guys have been noticing this. I've been noticing more of those induction stoves.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of chefs on my social media because I like to watch other people cook and I don't make the recipes. And I have been noticing way more induction stoves versus gas. And remember at Station X, we had a great interview about induction stoves and how they work. And there is a little bit of a learning curve in as far as how long and how fast they heat up. So cook times and things like that.
Yeah.
But once you get over that, why not?
You got to
We're
figure
talking
it
about
out.
the freaking environment here,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about climate change here. Is it so? Yeah, look, see? Karen, induction stoves are very fast and safe. Randy, we're putting in an induction cooktop as part of a kitchen renovation. See? You know, I just don't realize. Okay. Now, what is the point of this comment, Chris? You do realize that natural gas bubbles up through the ocean floor. I do know that natural gas, hence the name, happens. I'm talking about a reduction, my friend. I'm talking about man-made contributions to climate change. I'm talking about reducing our carbon footprint. Are we going to ever hit zero? No. I don't even think zero should be the goal because it's not attainable. What is, in my opinion, attainable is incremental movements, because people hate change that's too quickly. Although when the floodwaters are at your door or the flames are licking your roof, you're going to move pretty freaking quickly. But I'm just saying, I understand that.
When the air and the, what is that website we use, Purple Air or whatever, when you see the purple dots in your neighborhood and it's like, 200 or whatever, and you're looking and the air outside is hazy and gray and gross, are you going to light up a fire in your fireplace? No.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not. So it has to affect you. If it doesn't affect you, then you don't care. And I think that's the way this is. You've people in other areas that maybe are not fire prone, and they're like, why are you taking away my gas stove?
Right. I love my gas stove.
Right.
I bought this house because it had a gas stove. I have lived in one house my parents have a gas stove. They did a remodel years ago and they have a gas stove. And I've rented one home with gas. I liked it. It was quick. You just turn it on. I did also always have my worries that I left it on.
Yeah.
Or smelling gas, and I wouldn't worry about that anymore if I had an induction.
Yeah.
It's
gas stove, I like it better. My mom has one of those electric stove-top.
Right. That's what I have.
Where there's like a circle on the. I don't like it at all. I don't like
it either. But it is what we have, and I'm used to it. You know what I'm really used to, because I'm Gen X and the generations. The coil.
The coils, yeah.
I'm like, can I just get that back? Because I knew when it was on, it was red, it was hot. Yeah. But yeah, they don't. I don't. Yeah. I'm sure they probably do still sell them, but
I haven't seen one of those in forever. The red coil stove?
I know. Coil electric stove.
That was from the 70s, man.
But I'm pretty sure they still sell them. Yeah, you can get one. Whirlpool, $709. Yeah, they still sell them. You know what I hated about them, though? The little metal bowl underneath where all the spills would come, and then you'd have to scrub it until someone finally looked at me. They're like, those things are only a couple bucks. Just buy a stack of them. And when they get just disgusting, replace it. That's wasteful, but yeah, it's probably the easiest way of cleaning them. We have to take these steps. We have to evolve, because again, the planet will survive. It's not going to blow up. We just might not be able to survive, or at least survive in a way that's comfortable. I mean, when you have entire towns under floodwater, right? When you have our climate changing as fast as it seems to be doing, we need to do something now about it. And it blows my mind that people still fight against it. So yeah, Joe Manchin, if he keeps being reelected, we're just going to have to continue to deal with his ass. And I do not mind a debate, but I just really wish that we can get on the same page as a society on the fact that we should always, if there was a choice between status quo and being more environmentally friendly, we should lean that way and take those steps right now.
Even if we don't have problems, even if you don't believe there's a problem.
Yeah, what's the harm, right?
Why wouldn't you want to make an environmental choice?
And I mean, then people bring in business and jobs and things like that. But again, slow rollout, only new stoves. I mean, I would imagine that if you just bought a stove, it's going to last you at least a decade. So we're not talking about something you have to do right now, and we're not ripping them out of your home. So just stop. But the narratives and obviously the lobbying and all those sorts of things, there's going to be people that, you're going to yank my gas stove out with my cold dead hand, that sort of nonsense. So, okay, real quickly again, look, I can't stand him, but I got to stay focused on him. We have to keep an eye on this guy, because if we don't, he could become our next president. And my God, So there he is, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And here's the thing. All of those women standing behind him, I don't know who they are. I'm assuming either they're in support of the legislation or they're lawmakers or whatever. I don't know who those women are. It really chaps my hide when I feel like women, in my opinion, and I'm just going to shout that, vote against their own interests, right? I'm so glad you could stand behind someone that wants to take away body autonomy. I mean, women before these women fought tooth and nail for the rights that they're so willing and will smile to give away, in my opinion. Okay. So he's standing there with a bunch of bills that he signed, talking about drag queens, drag shows, pronouns. This is what he said. He tells this crowd, it's kind of sad that we even have some of these discussions. Let kids be kids. As long, he should add, as they are the type of kids that we want. Because he is supposed to represent all Floridians and yet only supports the Floridians that agree with him. He has presented a narrative that major medical associations have said are false, such as the idea that children are routinely being mutilated. Not true. He says he protects parents' rights, except, of course, parents of transgender kids. One Democratic state senator has said they cloaked themselves in being the party of less government and more parental rights. And what we're seeing right now is the total opposite. Every other parent has the right to raise their child the way they want, as long as your child is not gay, trans, or bisexual. That's freedom for some parents, but not all parents. I don't understand how people take him seriously. I really don't. He's coming after you. And not only is he coming after you, but obviously his message is bleeding down into school districts. They're banning books. So writers group Pen America and publisher Penguin Random House are suing a Florida school district over its removal of books about race and LGBTQ identities. Now, it does not name DeSantis as a defendant, although obviously he has championed some of those policies. Penguin Random House's CEO said books have the capacity to change lives for the better, and students in particular deserve equitable access to a wide range of perspectives. You know, and for a party that says they don't believe in censorship, this is a form of censorship. The teacher's formal objections to the books appear to draw on materials compiled by a website that creates reports on books it deems ideologically unsuitable for children. And one of those is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Do you ever see that book or see that movie? It started as a book, obviously. It does have some heavier, it touches on some heavier topics, depression and what have you. But it does seem interesting that the teacher that wanted to ban the books, that got it banned, admitted she never heard of the book, but filed the objection because she read excerpts on that website and phrases from the books. Never bothered reading the book.
Don't you think context is important?
Absolutely. And not only that, if you don't want your child reading the book, then don't have your child read the book.
That's right. Yep.
But you don't get to decide for everybody else. And that is what DeSantis and those that like his policies want. They don't believe in freedom as they claim to. They only believe in the freedom to live your life the way they live theirs. It doesn't make any sense because these children are being exposed to things. And when you hide or ban books, one, many of them will get it some other way. You're just drawing more attention to it. And two, that you're leaving it open for someone to fill that void that you've created. It's disappointing. And again, I really hope, I'd love it if DeSantis and Trump went away, but it's not happening. And so we have to continue educating people about what they really are trying to do as a society, because these are our children. And if he gets in the White House, you think he's going to stop with just these policies in Florida?
Nope.
He's coming for our libraries, our school districts.
right.
His ideology can spread like a virus, where
And
he's
it will
convinced people to be afraid of books.
Yeah, it will be kind of a vindication of him, of all of his policies. He'll say,
Exactly.
America must
Exactly.
really like what I'm doing in Florida, and they must want more of it too.
Right.
And here we get it on a national scale.
Right. You know, I will say this. Trump came out, I think today or yesterday, you know, praising the fact that when he was president, he killed Roe v. Wade and blah, blah, blah. He gets reelected. He's going to run on that because it'll be a endorsement if people reelect him as president to keep doing what he did before. Is that what you want? Are you willing to give up the freedom to control whether or not you can make decisions about your own body? Talk to your doctor, your children's doctor, and make decisions that way, that you don't have to call up people like DeSantis or Greg Abbott and ask their permission? That depending on where you live in this country, that determines the freedoms that you have? That blows my mind that people are willing to give up so many freedoms over this ideology, and yet it's happening. It just, I don't know. It scares me. It really, really does. We should have more control over our own bodies and over our own rights. All right. Kim has some quick headlines. When we come back, though, we're going to keep this in the kind of parent-child vein, but I want to have this debate because it was kind of going viral online, and I was tracking it a bit. So they were looking, Newsweek did this article, and they asked a simple question. Should adult children live with parents rent-free? And what was interesting is there seemed to be this caveat on whether or not the parents needed the money from their adult children for rent. So in the comments, or again, you guys can click in as well. Let me put the link again in the comments if you want to chime in, and we can take more than one of you if you guys want to chime in. Do you have adult children living with you? Did you live with your parents as an adult? And do you think that it should matter your parents' financial well-being on whether or not adult children pay rent? And how do you teach children about money? And could the answer be giving them their own kind of debit card, linking your bank account to that debit card? How do you teach children financial literacy? And when the world has, loans and APRs and things like that, is it smart to put plastic in your child's hand? And plastic, I mean, obviously, a credit card. All right, click that thumbs up button before the show. I do also want to give some shout outs right now to our super chat. Thank you to Lady Beatrice with a $5 donation. And she just commented, she says, it makes me feel sad when women don't even try fighting anymore. And that was in response, of course, to DeSantis and those women standing behind him. And I'm not saying all women have to agree on every single issue. I have very good friends that disagree with me on all sorts of things. Okay. But yeah, it makes me wonder if any of those women standing behind DeSantis had a gay or trans child, right? If you did, I think that your opinion on standing there with a smile slapped on your face would be different. But thank you, Lady Beatrice, for that $5 donation. And another $5 donation as well from her. Wes came in with a $10 super sticker. Thank you so much. And Deidre started us off with a $5 super sticker. I appreciate you guys so, so much. Look, we have to crowdfund this show to keep it going. And the super chat is one way to do it. So just look for that $sign right underneath your screen. And please, guys, if you can become a monthly subscriber, Yeah, I'm begging you to do it. I mean, we need that consistent monthly subscriber amount to keep the show going. And everybody that's been subscribing since the beginning and even upped their donation, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's awkward to do this. You know, it'd be nice if it was traditional radio and we had another way of bringing the money in, but it's you telling us that you want us to continue doing the show. So please visit thenikkimedoroshow.com. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com has our Patreon link, and you could donate any amount. And I'm taking lists of people. Kim, I had 2 people when I don't know if you were on this show yet. I was talking about my ridiculous, terrible commentary about doing my home workout. And I was like, if I get enough people that want me to, I might actually post one of those videos on Patreon. We'll see. I don't know if I have the confidence yet, but me and Nugget were really trying to get our workout on. It did not go well at all. But anyways,
you have a home gym, like a home.
Oh yeah, my bedroom, and
Oh.
some really old weights that has like the
Okay.
cushion peeling off of it. No, I don't really have a home gym. So I was trying to do my little workout because I was trying to get into better shape for my trip to Hawaii. I'm just going to be a shape, not necessarily in shape. I'll be a shape for my trip to Hawaii. But all those sorts of things can be found on Patreon. I'll put cooking stuff up there. I'm going to be putting some more up there. So then again, thenikkimedoroshow.com is where the Patreon link is there. Nugget, my friend Calvin, is right behind my chair sleeping. So he's a lazy dog. I don't know what to tell you. He doesn't want to make an appearance. But yes, he is right there. Right behind my, and so if I record any of these workouts, you will definitely see him because you can't do downward facing dog without a dog licking your face. All right. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about adult children living rent free in their parents' house. Yes or no? Right after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And good afternoon to you. Let us begin with Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, is condemning an attack by unknown assailants on a U.S. convoy in Nigeria. Tuesday's attack left 4 people dead, 2 of them U.S. consulate employees. Blinken, in a statement, said a motive isn't clear at this time, but there's no indication that it was a targeted attack against embassy officials specifically. Officials say no U.S. citizens were in the convoy at that time. A federal appeals court is hearing a case on the abortion pill. Assistant Attorney General Sarah Harrington argues that doctors who are bringing about this case against the pill don't actually say that they have been forced to provide care that violates their religious beliefs. 3 judges heard the case. All 3 appointed by Republican presidents have backed abortion restrictions before. The government lawyer said those doctors don't have the legal standing to bring the suit because they don't claim to have experienced harm from prescribing mifepristone. The judges suggested Harrington was trying to split words to throw out the suit. The judges also questioned her on whether medical professionals can instruct a patient on using the drug through a telemedicine appointment. Harrington said that whatever happens once a patient has the pill has nothing to do with whether the drug is safe and or effective. Google is deleting accounts that have been inactive for at least 2 years. So that old email address, it's a goner. The company says they will move the move will curb security risks. The process to start in December, but the updated policy takes effect now with the tech giant sending out warning notifications. Google says the first to go will be accounts created and then never revisited by the user. The Ohio Senate passed an education bill. I have the picture. No, I don't. Apologies. The Ohio Senate passing an education bill, a higher education bill, to limit diversity training. The bill would ban faculty strikes, restrict mandatory diversity training. It would penalize professors who do not create classrooms free from bias. The bill was presented by the Republican Jerry Serino, who says the bill is needed because he believes that conservative students and staff feel the need to conform to liberal ideologies and that the colleges and universities have gone too far to the left, he says. The bill now heads to the Ohio State House. There is a resolution here in California. This is Stowe Lake in San Francisco. A resolution in San Francisco asking park officials to rename this lake in Golden Gate Park. San Francisco supervisors approved the resolution yesterday asking to rename Stowe Lake, which is named after former California State Assembly Speaker William Stowe. It was made in 1893, Stowe Lake. The resolution urges the Recreation and Park Commission to rename the lake, its boathouse, and the drive circling Strawberry Hill, all named after Stowe. Stowe was Assembly Speaker in 1855 and later part of the San Francisco Park Commission. As Speaker, Stowe rallied against the state's Jews, wanted to oust Jews from the estate, and according to the resolution, supported anti-Semitic rhetoric. So do we get rid of the Stowe name because of that? The Village People. Yeah, they are sending a cease and desist letter to former President Donald Trump over his use of their 1978 hit song, Macho Man. Reports indicate the band sent a letter Monday regarding a recent performance of Macho Man at Mar-a-Lago. The letter claims a cover band that performed the song was also dressed like the Village People. They called it an unauthorized use of the group's likeness. No Macho Man for you, El Trumpo. Kraft Heinz is developing a way. This story is really for you, Nikki. They're developing a way for fans of its dipping sauces to mix their own flavors at restaurants and stadiums. So the company unveiled a prototype of what is being called, you can see it here, the Heinz Remix Dispenser. They announce it today. It will let customers choose one base sauce, like say ketchup or ranch or Heinz 57 sauce, barbecue sauce, whatever, and then mix it with one or more flavor enhancers like jalapeno, buffalo, mango. The dispenser is very similar to Coca-Cola's freestyle machines that let customers mix soda flavors. The remix will be showcased at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago this weekend, with the company planning pilot programs in restaurants for late 2023 and early next year. So you could create your own little dipping dip.
Yeah, you know what I see when I see that machine? Something very difficult to clean. I don't know necessarily how much that's needed, but I guess it's a pretty good marketing ploy. And I would, if it was at some place, I'd probably try it. But I'm not that adventurous with my ketchup.
Well, what else are you going to put in ketchup? I mean, what do you want to, I guess jalapeno ketchup? You can't mango ketchup sounds repulsive.
I mean, okay, so it's going to be, so they have ranch, Heinz 51 sauce.
57, Heinz 57, barbecue.
Barbecue. I could see the mango barbecue.
Ketchup.
The mango barbecue could probably go, like kind of a sweet barbecue-y flavor.
Well, what else are you going to put in ranch?
I could do a jalapeno. I could put a jalapeno in anything. Jalapeno ranch. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a gimmick. We'll see.
Yeah. It's interesting. There is one of those soda machines in Petaluma. I think it's at a Pizza Hut or a Round Table, one of the chain. And you go up to the machine and you can mix and match whatever you want. It's like you select different ones and they pour it all at the same time. It's very interesting. I'm not a soda drinker per se. They have an iced tea option that I like, but the kids, you know, they'll not my kids because we're not soda drinkers, but they like to go in there. Like you can do root beer with orange flavor, like, and kids don't care. They'll just do the craziest flavors, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So we've had like sports gatherings after a sports game there, and the kids just flock to that thing and love it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. People like to make their own concoctions.
They do indeed. They like to make potions. There you go.
The Nikki Medoro Show is crowdfunded, and that means we rely on you. You can find the Patreon link and the PayPal link at thenikkimedoroshow.com, and we appreciate whatever you can do for us. I am Kim McAllister, and this is the Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thank you, Kim. All right. Let me give some shout outs real quickly to those that have been supporting the show and did so just after my last announcement, because it's going to start with Deidre with a $10 donation, because she's going to start off this next topic. She says, my 22-year-old son lives in his van that we purchased. We make him pay $800 a month in payments. They need to learn fiscal responsibility. Now, why did I bring up Deidre's comment? Besides, thank you for that $10 donation.
Yeah.
It's because there is a Newsweek article asking whether or not adult children should pay rent. So they were given 3 options to choose from. Okay. And 57% said parents should require them to pay rent, even if the parents do not need money. 28% of those polled chose the option that parents should allow them to live rent-free if the parents do not need the money. And then the other 15% chose, I don't know, which I don't understand why you would respond to a survey saying, I don't know, but whatever. Well, how do you feel, Kim? If Julia or Jacob were adults, let's say 18 years old, right at 18, and they're like, can I just continue to live here and not pay any rent? What would you say?
So I think there's different scenarios
Okay.
of this. Okay.
Okay.
One scenario is and I have a friend that lives with her mom. She's my age, and she's got a daughter and a husband, and they live in the upstairs of the house, and the elderly blind mother lives in the downstairs.
Okay.
And they take care of her. My friend manages her mom's finances, pays all the bills,
Okay.
everything. So, and all of her sisters and brothers don't have to worry because she's there taking care of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think she should pay rent? Well, I don't think so. I think the mother doesn't have to have in-home care and pay for that. I think the mother doesn't have to go to a nursing home. It's a situation that kind of benefits everyone. I think they may pay her something because, they live there and whatever. The mother doesn't need the money. Whatever it is, I think the mother's getting, care provided for them. That's different than your young adult. When you let a young adult move in, back in, that's great. You want them to always feel like they have a home and always feel like they have a home base to come home to a point, because you can be enabling them to not then fly free and go and do their own thing. And what you don't want is for them to say, well, I guess I could always just live here. I don't have to worry about getting a job. I don't have to worry about life. All these things I've been avoiding, I can still keep avoiding them. I can just now live to be me and hang around all day and do nothing. That's a no. But if you have a kid who's struggling, maybe saving for a down payment on a house, it's a different situation. If you have a responsible kid who's working to save and working toward goals, that's one thing. But if you have a freeloader, you've got to lay down some rules.
How much would you charge in rent if you, just right now, let's just pretend that one of your kids is 18 years old and they're not going to college. They're not going to college. They're like, but I do want to save some money. And you could fill in the blank. It could be a vacation. It could be a car. How much would you charge them, and how would you determine that amount?
I think I would determine it on how much they're making.
What if they, okay.
So if they have a full-time job and they're making minimum wage, I might charge $500 a month. And then I would take that $500 a month and I would put it in a separate account.
Right.
And when they finally get their butt together and say, I want to move out, I would say, okay, well, how much is a rent at a regular apartment? Oh, $2,000 a month. Well, how are you going to pay for that?
Right.
How are you going to do that? Well, do you know how much it costs? Then you have to have the, first and last month's rent. It's very expensive to move into a place. And after they leave, I think then I would give them the money that I had saved.
You're so nice, Kim. And I think a lot of parents, if they had the means, would do that. But what if you can't afford to just keep feeding an adult? So the reason why this also was brought up was there was a husband and wife, and they made a TikTok video that I'm not going to show you right now because the volume was really, really low. But they were talking about how the dad was telling their child, Archie, I think the name is, that if you're not going to college, you want to stay here, you have to get a job. And so the dad says $200 a month. And I don't know where they live because I know that probably plays a role. It doesn't say where they live. Okay. $200 a month is pretty cheap to live like a grub in your parents' house. And then he also said, and that's $200, no food. You want to use the fridge and eat the food in the fridge, it's $300 a month, which I actually think is a pretty good deal because
it sure is.
If you have to pay your own groceries, you're paying way more than $100 a month on that. Beth says, our son lived with us with the expectation that it was temporary. He did not pay rent or do chores unless we gave him one-off jobs. That lasted a 2 long year before we had him go.
Yeah.
So I have told my children, you always, like you said, Kim, this is your home. You always will have a place with mom and dad. You'll never, obviously I'm not gonna let you live on the streets. It'd be a cold day in hell if you're living here rent free though. Like I don't feel as if there is any situation where an able-bodied 18, 19, 20-year-old that's not going to college.
Right.
And that, let's add that onto it as well. That's not going to college, can't make enough money to chip in. Okay. Because also in my mind, I love my children and I don't care how old they are, but if they're under my roof and they're an adult, they're not going to have a curfew, right? They're going to come and go as they please. So now I have to lose sleep because I don't care how old you are. If I know that you're out there, there's a cost to me losing sleep. Like I'm willing to deal with it while you're in high school because that's what you do. But now you're an adult and I'm losing sleep. There's going to be a cost to that. Groceries, you have to pay for groceries. I mean, those are things that you have to teach your kids.
So how much are you going to charge them?
Well, I mean, if I'm living in San Jose, it's really expensive to live here. Are these children? And I probably, if I can make ends meet, which I would assume I could, do what you would do. Whatever money you give me, I'll hold on to.
But don't tell them you're holding on.
No, God, no! Don't tell kids anything.
Because they have to feel it. They have to feel the financial stress of having to pay rent. And by the way, paying $500 or whatever it is to live with your parents is way different than paying, the real rates in the world.
Right.
So they have to feel it. Otherwise, they're not gonna respect you, and they're gonna feel like they can get everything for free.
I remember, and I think I've also shared this story when I was buying my very first car, a red Honda Civic with 2 doors. I loved that car. I bought it with my own money. But before my dad would co-sign, because I was in high school, he's like, oh no, I was in college. I was a freshman in college. He said, you have to pay me $300 a month. And I think I paid it for almost a year. He's like, and it has to be on time on this date. And if you don't, then obviously you can't afford a car payment and I'm not going to. And I did. And I mean, I did at the detriment. I was stressing. It was a real bill to me because I knew that if I didn't, he wasn't going to let me co-sign. I was driving a piece of crap car that kept breaking down. I mean, I broke down so much. I was done. And it taught me how to do that, and to budget. Molly says pay rent, but not rent, but pay all other bills, car insurance, cell phone, etc. Rent's a huge part of that. You got to learn how to, be able to afford it, or they're always going to live in your house. If you never learn to afford it, how are they ever going to learn to afford it?
Along the lines of your story, my great-grandfather bought 3 of his great-grandkids' cars.
Yes, my grandmother did that for me and my brother, our first cars. Yeah.
So it's a little like, what was it? Ford something, little
car.
Yeah. I forget the name of it. It was so long ago. And my dad said, you have to pay the insurance. I'll put you on my insurance, but you need to pay, I think it was, I don't know, $200 or $300 a month. I had never paid bills before. So I flaked. I totally flaked on my dad. I didn't send him the money. And it was like 3 or 4 months. And then I got caught because then I owed all this money to him. Right. And then I was in trouble. He came and he took the car back. He's like, you can't, just what your dad said, if you don't have the money, then you can't be responsible for this car. And but that was so good for me because I'm like, oh, this is what happens when you don't pay your bills. It was this learning moment. You were smart enough to know ahead of time. I had to learn the hard way, but I'm glad he did that. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, you have to teach your kids how to budget. And Al Anonymous brings up something that I've also talked to my daughter about. Al Anonymous writes, depends if they're under 26 and still on your health insurance, charge more if not in school. The health insurance thing is huge. So my daughter has a pre-existing condition now, right? Yep. I mean, she needs healthcare. And I've said, I'm like, look, I'm not going to stress you out. Obviously, you could stay on my health insurance for as long as you're legally allowed. But you need to understand that whether you go to college or not, you need something with health insurance. And I'm talking good health insurance because it's expensive to treat a chronic condition, right? It's expensive to do those things. And so, you definitely need to. Vilma, she writes, I believe you can never shut the door on immediate family if you can provide the space. Rent, it depends on the situation. How else do you teach kids, though, about financial responsibility, right? Would you give your kid, for instance, they make those debit cards, what is it called, like green light or something like that? It's that credit debit cards. Some of them you can link to your own account, and some of them, so there's green light, there's Go Henry, even Chase Bank comes out with debit cards. I personally don't mind it as long as they can feel some of the pain of like an APR. I don't think that enough young people understand what an APR actually is and why you want to pay more than the minimum, why you want to pay off your credit card bill in its entirety, or you're just giving this company more of your money for something you've already purchased and are using. I don't think that there's enough of that. And I don't know if debit cards necessarily do that, but I feel like I could impose an APR on something. So for instance, Kim, with your story, if you owed me money month after month on that car, I would have set up this situation where it's like, okay, I'm going to sell you this car, loan you this car. And I'm just going to say 10%, which is terrible, but 10% APR on it.
Right.
And every time you were late, that interest was going to add up, so that you understand the consequence of not only not paying the bill in full, but buying something you can't afford. Yep. And in this, I want it now society, that is something that gets so many of these kids in trouble. And no, I'm not Anonymous charging my kids $1,000. Although I think that would be actually reasonable, because if I'm setting my adult child up to succeed outside my home and they want to stay, let's just say in San Jose, $1,000 a month is a freaking deal.
Never gonna find it. So here's my question to you.
Okay.
So we do all these things. We play hardball with kids to teach them financial responsibility.
Right.
But what if you've got a kid that just won't work, or for some reason is dragging their heels?
My nightmare.
What if you have a kid that maybe has addiction issues? What if you have a kid that has all these other things? Then you play hardball and you try to do tough love and you try to say, if you don't do this, you're going to be homeless. When it comes to that moment to kick your child out of the house, knowing they have nowhere to go and no money, do you do it? Knowing that possibly that could be the impetus to change their life and turn things around, or it could lead to a life of them living on the street.
And we already talked about what that consequence could be as well. If they're living on the street, that could spiral down into something terrible. As a mom or a parent, you're like, they're going to become drug addicted. They're going to sell their body for money. Like your mind is going to go there. But what is the other consequence though? It's a failure to launch, right? I mean, it's enabling your child that you are supposed to be raising. And I don't care. You're always raising your children. My parents are technically still raising me, because they guide me as a 40-something-year-old woman with 2 kids, and they give me advice and all that. Do I depend on them in the same way a younger child does? Of course not. I can't imagine that. And I think I'm being naive when I say this, because I'm a mother of a soon-to-be 14-year-old and a soon-to-be 12-year-old. I do not have an 18-year-old, and I don't have somebody that I'm not in a position where it looks like my child's not going to get a job or not go to college, because I'm not across that bridge yet. Okay. Right. So this is going to be my most naive, uneducated response. I would hope that as I'm raising my child, it won't become a surprise to me what path they take. Right. So for instance, I have a mom friend whose daughter, and she literally was just talking about this on social media the other day, didn't go to college. But she's becoming a teacher, and she's very proud of her. And she admitted, she's like, it took a second for me to wrap my mind around the fact that my child was going one way and not the other. But she also looked back. She's like, my daughter has always wanted to work with kids. She's always, loved her teachers. So I feel like it shouldn't be a surprise for parents to wake up one day, their kids graduate high school, and all of a sudden their kids like, but I'm not going to college, or I'm not doing X, Y, and Z. Like, where have you been? Right? What lessons have you had these conversations with your children? I'm not trying to sound judgy, but I would hope that when I'm at that point, it's not going to be such a surprise.
Have you ever seen homeless people and you think to yourself, where's their family?
Yeah.
Where's their
Of
parents?
course.
Where's their siblings? Where's the people that love them in the world? How did they end up this way? And so that's that moment when you talk about, will your children, will you actually, when push comes to shove, kick your children out to make a financial point to them, to
Mm,
hopefully have them get their act together? Will you then, be that person where they look at your child and go, where's their mom? Where's their
yeah.
family? It's a
Yeah.
really hard one. I don't know if I would be able to play hardball up until that point.
Well,
You
you
know
know
what I
what my
mean?
parents did? There was definitely the carrot and the stick. So,
Yeah.
I went my freshman year in college to Chico State, and then I came home and I actually lived with my parents as an adult, and I did not pay rent, right? For 2 years. I lived with my parents and I was still
Mhm.
but I was going to college. I was going to community college. The stick was, I mean, it wasn't really a stick. It was just like I'm with my parents and my parents were going to do it forever. But my parents told me, they're like, when you become a junior in college, because they wanted to keep pushing me to graduate because I was taking
Yeah.
a longer time and figuring it out. When you become a junior in college, we will pay half of your rent. Well, it ended up being half my rent. We will give you $500 a month. Okay. You can do with it as you get the hell out of the house. Right.
Yeah.
And at that time, you could rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,000. Now, I still had a car payment, car insurance, groceries, lights, everything else was on me. They were giving me solely $500, but that ended up paying my rent.
Yeah.
So I got a roommate. I had my rent. I had a boyfriend who ended up becoming my husband that was always at my house, helping pay some of the bills as well. And I figured it out that way. But it was something to look forward to. It was something to launch me, but with a
Sure.
net, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they only did it until I graduated college. And then obviously I had to
Oh,
figure the
you're on
rest
your
of it
own.
out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for 2 years, junior and senior year in college, my parents gave me $500. It wasn't enough to pay for everything, wasn't even close, but it was kind of like a guaranteed income that helped get me over that hump to get the job, to budget enough so I would be able to afford my life. And it worked for me. And I'm proud to say that I'm very fiscally responsible with my money.
You really are.
Sometimes I'm terrible. Believe me. Sometimes I'm like, what the hell did I just spend my money on?
You're very frugal.
I try to be. I
Yeah.
try to be. But no, I'm not always, especially when I have a husband that's always like, can I have $3,500 to buy an airplane sized light to shoot up into the sky? He's always kidding, but he's definitely one
You're like, no.
where if he had that money, I'm like,
No.
really? Floyd says, my statement to my kids was, quote, from bacteria to insects to animals to us, everything must work to eat and survive. I love that. You should put it on a bumper sticker. Yeah, I feel like you don't want kids to feel like everything is handed to them, or
Right.
they could just whip out a credit card
Yeah.
and charge it. Oh, I'll get to it. I mean, that's it's the debt problem that we have in this country. It's because, and it's also because people don't make enough money and the cost of living is so high in certain areas. I'm not going to, negate that fact, but you live within your means. There's a saying, any Dave Ramsey fans out there know, it's like, live your wage, right? Like act your wage. Don't act like you make $1 million a year. You make $30,000 a year. Act like it, right? Act like it. You don't need a new car. You don't need the latest gadget. Make your phone work, fix the screen instead of buying a new one, those sorts of things. Act your wage.
Here's a question for you. Let's flip the script.
Okay.
What if, and we talked about yesterday, people being ready for retirement, right?
Right.
What if you're old and you
Mhm.
can't work
Mhm.
and you're infirmed, your body's just not working for you anymore, but you had a life full of responsibility,
Yes.
except maybe you didn't plan for retirement very well.
Right.
And Social Security's been canceled. Sayonara, sucker.
Right.
And you get to the point where you need help and you've got a couple of kids and they're doing really well. I
Mhm.
mean, they're making lots of money. They've got big houses, fancy cars, they've got families of their own, but clearly they've got extra. Do you think that kids should turn around and give money to their parents and help them in a tough spot?
Um,
Or is it just our
obviously,
responsibility to help our kids in a tough spot?
I think so. I mean, I'm trying to imagine, what I would do. And again, we're that generation where you have young kids and you have older parents or in-laws. And so you always go through this scenario. Like, what would I do? Would I move my parents in with me? Although my parents have told me unequivocally
We're not
they will
coming.
never live with me again. They're like, we are not. I will die in this house. Or my in-laws, and I would hands down say if my in-laws or my parents were infirmed or not financially able to take care of themselves, I would make it work under my own house. Hands down, 100%. Would it be easy? I don't think it would be easy for anybody. I don't think anybody that's lived on their own or with their spouse all their life wants to live with their child or their parents, right? You don't want to go back, and it's also cultural. I mean, there's cultures where that's a given. Of course, you take care of your parents, right? And they can help you out. If you have young kids, they can watch your kids and they could cook. I lived with my grandmother my whole entire life. I was not a latchkey kid. My grandmother was there. She obviously babysat us when we were young. She made dinner. So my parents, my parents worked 2 jobs, so there was always somebody home and making sure there was something on the table. And that's how we grew up. So yeah, it's, how would you feel?
I feel responsible. Well, I would feel responsible for I would never want to let any member of my family be in a hard position. That includes my sister.
Yes.
And some very close friends as well. If I was in a position to do anything to help, I would. But would I take money from my own children later in life
to pay your mortgage or something?
I would have a hard time with it.
It wouldn't become easy, but what's between defaulting on your house or asking your kids for some money?
Well, I mean, would have to say, does it make financial sense? Let's actually sit down and look at it. If my gut would be, I'm going to sell everything I own before I become a burden to my children. However, if I'm going to leave a house to my children and it makes more sense for them to pay for it in my last few years than it does for me to send it into default, because they'll make more money if they pay that rent anyway, then maybe it's a decision they want to help make financially. So I think it would depend on the situation.
Yeah, and you have to have a good relationship with your kids, and they would probably know. Well, I mean, how forthcoming would you be with the information that you're having financial difficulties?
I think you have to, right? I mean, I don't know. If it makes sense, if you look at it and go, God, if I know they have extra, and if they paid $100,000 to save the house, and I can live here for the next few years, and all my money then won't go to some nursing home, or and
you do a reverse mortgage. That's how those reverse mortgages get people to sign up for them.
That's why they do that. I don't know. I think I would hope that it would be a case where we could sit down and discuss it all. Assuming my faculties are still with me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look what Francis wrote. I wish my wealthy son would send me an airline ticket to visit him and his family. I was a poor single mom. Now he and wife and RN, they're making way more money than I ever did. That's sad. I mean, you would hope that you sacrifice for your kids. You make it work for them. Obviously, Francis, you have a kid that's successful and married and everything. Francis, can I just ask you, and you don't have to say, but have you asked? Hey, I'd like to come see you. I can't afford it. Can you, for my birthday, can you fly me out?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Also, I feel though that Francis has a lot to be happy about. Right? I mean,
you miss your kid.
You do miss your kids, but she should be so proud of them. Look at how successful and how, they're living life on their own. That is the opposite of failure to thrive. Do you want them to think about you and want, to?
Yes, you do. You want them to bring your mother out and love your mother and lay the guilt. You don't want to lay the guilt. You're like, come on now.
But it could be the opposite. It could be a kid living in your basement. So if I have to pick one, I'm going for Francis.
Man. Yeah, and she says she is proud of them, that she's kind of hinted, maybe be more direct, my friend. Sometimes moms have to be really, really direct and be like, hey, I miss you. Like my mom is a very direct mom. And so when she wants something, she asks for it. I mean, she's 1 mile away from me, so it's not very difficult. But Cecilia writes, what if you have a child who has mental health issues, has threatened the family, refuses to go on medication that multiple doctors have prescribed for them? What do you do with that child? And I'm assuming you're talking about an adult child, Cecilia. Do you let them live in your home? Do you take on that responsibility?
That's hard.
And that expense? Um, that's hard. And my heart goes out if it's you, my heart goes out to you and others that are going through it. It's it's one of those things where, like Kim was mentioning, do you not wash your hands of it, but be like, look, this is what needs to happen. I would say, if you want to come under my roof, then you have to follow the doctor's orders. And if you don't want to do that, then you're on your own. I can't help you because, and that has to be one of the hardest conversations ever to have. Liz writes in, my friend became a widow when her youngest of 3 was still in elementary school, worked her butt off. Her eldest became successful. She quit, moved to live with him, and he bought her a Tesla. See, that's awesome. I mean, you hope that your kids will always take care of you. You know, another thing that you have to consider, especially if you have children and they're young, if something, God forbid, happened to you, who do you send them to? I mean, do you put them with your parents if they're still alive, even though they're older? Do you send them to siblings if you have them, even though they may not be financially secure to take on 1, 2, 3 extra kids? These are questions. I mean, do you have a will, Kim?
I don't, but I should. We need to really get on that. Yeah.
I mean, I know you live right next door to your mom, but and you have your sister. Who would you choose?
We talk about it sometimes who we would choose, and it's either my sister or my husband's brother.
Yeah.
So, and
it's my brother. I'm totally.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're getting the kids. So,
but I think you have to look at who is like more like your parenting style.
Yes.
Who the kids feel closest to, and also where are they in their life? You know, it's not that I don't want my mom to have my kids, but she's at a point in her life where maybe she doesn't want to be, chasing around kids or having kids draw on her walls or whatever. So yes, my Jacob will still do that because we can't have nice things. So, is my sister at a point where she's got a 5th grader and I have a 3rd grader, so she's more able to handle it. But then is another family member more financially able to take on that? So you have to look at a bunch of different things about who's able to handle it,
Yeah, it's a tough one. And yeah, Randy, just to put a final touch on it, if you have kids, you need a will and or trust and life insurance. Absolutely.
We have that life insurance. We just don't have that will or
that
trust.
Living trust. You need a living. I've heard from everyone, you need a living trust. And I'm right there with you. It's one of those things.
Do you have that yet? Have you done that?
I need to get my living trust together. I mean, it's an expense, but it's even more expensive to let things go to probate and all that nonsense that happens if you don't have all of your ducks in a row. So
you need to, because we think, oh, I can do it. I'll have time to do it, and then you could get hit by a Mack truck tomorrow. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, whether it's finances, whether it's letting your kids live with you, parents. It's a tough job that never ends. It never ends. Like I mentioned, I mean, you will always be a parent. All right. A couple headlines. Do you have a couple headlines ready?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do a couple headlines and then we'll wrap up the show with some interesting TV news. I'll just couch it that way. Some interesting TV news. Click the thumbs up button. We love you for doing it. Thanks to everyone donating to our super chat. We'll talk about Netflix helping find a missing girl, which is just totally awesome. And plus, speaking of getting up there in age, there's a new love show, another crap show I'm probably going to watch. We'll talk about that next on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Let's start with President Biden. Republicans are criticizing him for waiting until the last minute to agree to direct debt ceiling negotiations. The president agreed to negotiate even more directly with Speaker McCarthy's staff following yesterday's meeting at the White House. McCarthy said the decision is something he's been pushing for more than 100 days, but President Biden refused. So that's the newest thing. Also, President Biden is heading to Japan as negotiations over raising the debt ceiling are being held in Washington. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Biden will be attending a G7 summit to talk with leaders about the war in Ukraine, clean energy, and artificial intelligence, also on the agenda. He also defended the president's decision to postpone the planned travel to Australia and New Guinea so he can focus on talks over raising the debt limit and avoiding default. Black leaders in Congress, they are having a new discussion now over reparations to descendants of enslaved Africans. Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush, leading a group of fellow Democrats to unveil legislation today, she said in a press conference the resolution would back up previously introduced legislation for reparations and support state and local efforts. And here in California, we've got a reparations committee in San Francisco. We've got one at the state level, and now it looks like we have one at the federal level as well. Mayor Eric Adams believes the federal government should declare a state of emergency for New York City because of the migrant crisis. He expects a surge in migrants very soon. He says possibly as many as 15 busloads of them in the next day or so. With the city out of shelter room, the mayor says he and his team are looking at about 400 different locations where they can put them, including closed churches, school gyms, and airport hangars. The U.S. power grid may be at risk this summer. Here we go again with the power grid. Remember that, where we couldn't use power for a certain part of the day, and don't plug in your electric car until, whatever time. Yeah, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation report warns the vast majority of the United States grid may face elevated power outage risks during bad weather conditions over the summer. It added there is an increased risk due to a greater reliance on renewable energy sources. So, yeah, it looks like here we go with another summer full of restrictions, one could say. I had a picture here. I don't know if this is the right picture or not. Yeah, here it is. I have a picture of the folks at the Star Garden. Have you heard about this with the sexy dancers maybe looking to unionize? That's what it is. Let me get a picture of Star Garden up here for you. My apologies for not having it up sooner. But hey, if you're going to have a protest, might as well have one that looks like that. Look at that. A topless bar in Southern California on the verge of making history. The dancers there will become the only unionized strippers in the nation. The recognition came after more than a year-long battle with club management. So, at the Star Garden, they are unionizing.
I like it. I like it a lot.
This report is crowdfunded, so we really rely on listeners and viewers like you. If you are able to help, you can find us at thenikkimedoroshow.com. You've got the Patreon link, you've got the PayPal link, you've got even the links to the podcast and the merchandise shop. You've got everything all in one place, thenikkimedoroshow.com, and check it out. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Awesome. All right. We have a few more minutes, and I have to get to this story because it is absolutely amazing. Did you guys used to watch back in the day? So Robert Stack? Is that who it was on Unsolved Mysteries? I think that was his name. So Unsolved Mysteries, it's been rebooted and it's on Netflix. And apparently they did a story and it helped find this missing girl. I'll play you a little bit of the announcement. This was on CNN.
It was July 2017, and Kayla's father had been ordered by a judge to have full custody of her. Her mother had supervised visitation. Well, on July 7th, right after 4th of July, her father, Ryan, went to go pick her up from this supervised visitation, and she was gone. He couldn't find her. Her mother was gone. And so I just got finished looking at some court records, and there was an Amber Alert, which we have in the United States. It was immediately called out, but she was nowhere to be found. And then at the end of July, there was a warrant out for the arrest of her mother for kidnapping. So 6 years later, and her father didn't know where she was for all of these years. What was Kayla told? Well, it was last Saturday night. It was North Carolina, 600 miles from South Elgin, Illinois, which is a Chicago suburb. And someone saw her in a store and had seen this episode on Netflix of Unsolved Mysteries, went to the store personnel and said, I recognize her. She was on this show of missing children. And so authorities came, they got her. The mother, they found her in North Carolina. She was arrested. Held on $250,000 bail, but Kayla has now been reunited with her father. And there's two things here. She was on the Netflix episode for 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
4 seconds. And that woman whoever it was, recognized her from that show.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
Kayla's mother has been released on bail. She is free.
Yeah. So isn't that crazy? Did you used to watch Unsolved Mysteries?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. I loved it as a kid. I would watch it every single night. It was Robert Stack. He'd be there in his like brown trench coats, it'd be a smoky night or whatever, foggy night. And I remember one time I called Unsolved Mysteries. I felt like I had seen somebody that was involved in a crime. I don't know whatever came from it. I don't think it actually helped solve a crime. But anyways, it's been rebooted. They found that girl. Who hosts it now? Let me see. Unsolved Mysteries is hosted by, it doesn't say. Presenters are Raymond Burr, Carl Malden. I think that's
Raymond
the new
Burr.
one. I know. I know.
What?
That's who it is. Raymond Burr? I don't know. It's a Canadian actor. No, he's dead. No, he's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
know,
maybe his son is of the same name, or maybe it's a different person. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just Googling it. This is probably old information. I don't know who. Let me see. Hold on. Let me click on the Netflix ad. It doesn't say. It's not Robert Stack, though, who they should bring back from the dead because Robert Stack was infamous or famous for doing it. They're all dead. Does anybody know who hosts it now? I have no idea. But anyways, Unsolved Mysteries, watch it. It's a great show. A show I'm also going to watch. And don't judge me because I do watch The Bachelor and I've been telling you that it's just terrible. It's not good anymore. But now they're going to have a new type of season. So they have Bachelor, they have Bachelorette, they have Bachelor in Paradise. That's Robert Stack from the original Unsolved Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to have the Golden Bachelor.
What does that mean?
Senior citizen.
Seriously?
Yes. I am so watching this freaking show. I am so excited about this idea. Now, they've actually been advertising this for a few years and then COVID hit. I'm almost positive, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that they were looking for seniors. I think maybe just like 50 and up. I don't know what they consider senior citizens that want to find love. And then I believe COVID happened or something. They delayed it. And so they're bringing it on. And so it's over the age of 65. Competing for love. It was announced today. They say it's going to be a whole new kind of love story, one for the golden years.
Oh my
Who's
God.
excited about this? I am so excited about this. Thank you. Thank you, Francis. I swear to God, I think it's great. Here's why. One, they needed to do something because obviously Bachelor's getting old and tired. And two, I am going to be fascinated, and I know it's crap TV and it's scripted with producers in that kind of way. I want to know what they're looking for. Is it going to be a bunch of dirty old men looking for, because they're going to be over 65. No one's going to be like a 65-year-old man with a 20-year-old, hot model female. Right. They're all going to be over the age of 65. So then what do they care about? What conversations do they have?
Yeah.
I know, Eric, you don't have to judge, but I think that it's going to be fun. I'm going to give it, how about this? I'm going to give it a shot. I'll let you know. You don't have to watch it. I'll watch it for you.
Well, I think it's going to be better than the regular Bachelor. I mean, the regular Bachelor took itself a little too seriously.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, it's just, I'm over. I don't like Bachelorette. I don't. Even though it's the woman choosing the man, I find it completely boring. Bachelor is totally boring. Bachelor in Paradise can be fun, but it's really, really trashy. But I do find it a little more fun because they bring people from different love shows on. So I think that that's kind of fun. But 65 and olders, you guys are getting your chance at crap television. And I am all for it. All right, let me give some shout outs to everyone that donated to the show throughout the show. Deidre started us off with a $5 super sticker. Thank you. Wes with a $10 super sticker. I love you, Wes. Lady Beatrice came in with a couple of them, $5 and then another $5. And then nice. Deidre with another one with a $10 donation. Please, guys, crowdfunded show. We want to keep it going. We don't want to stop it. So please consider becoming a monthly Patreon subscriber right there. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. And we would truly, truly appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll read the comments. If you're watching on replay, you can still be part of the show. And we'll talk tomorrow. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.